And smile, we're officially recording. Welcome to Collab Lab Cohort number 8. We're so stoked about this. I think of the number 8 and I'm like, how and when? Like, what? Oh my gosh. Anyway, it's like, it's my little baby and I can't believe it's so grown up already. So welcome. We're so excited to have you all. This is our kickoff call. So we're going to go over a lot of information and it might seem a little bit overwhelming in a way. There's just going to be a lot, but just know it's kind of like starting a new job, right? You like walk in and you're like, that was a lot. I don't quite know what I'm doing. But you're going to get the hang of things and we all work as a team here. So I think you'll get acclimated fairly quickly and we're all going to have fun and we're going to build things together and we're going to be a super duper team. Woo! So what we're going to do in this meeting is we're going to do some introductions and then we're going to go over the project brief, which will really walk us through what all we'll be doing over the next 8 weeks. And then we'll go off into breakout rooms with our first pair and kick off the app building and see what we can get started. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. This is recorded if you need to go back. And let's do it. So I'll pass it over to Andrew to kick things off.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Andrew. I'm the founder of Collab Lab. Just want to kind of introduce myself, tell you a little bit about sort of the origin story of the program you're about to start taking part in. So I am an engineering manager at a company called Zapier, which actually I have my little Zapier sweatshirt on. We do workflow automation. We're a 100% distributed company. So there's no home office. Everyone works from homes and sheds and used to be coffee shops and stuff, but not so much anymore. But
What are you gonna do?
But all over the world. So we have people in 27 different countries, and we're anyway. It's a fun little company. It's where I met Stacy and Adrian. I know Adrian from Twitter. Stacy and Adrian are your mentors. But yeah, I just want to tell you a little bit about sort of why we're here. Last summer, almost a year ago. I got together with sort of an early career developer here in Portland. We were just having a beer before a junior dev meetup that I was going to be attending, and he was talking about how he was finding it really hard after he got out of his boot camp to continue to find motivation to keep coding. And we talked about that a little bit, and he said that something he thought would help would be to have other people who are kind of working alongside, like to have that accountability of working on a team. And so I was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I just built this little app for myself. I bet I could kind of scope it out, like put a little project together. And if we could find a couple of other people to do it with you, then, let's see if we can just kind of run a little project. And so he and I went to that meetup and we met Caitlin Greffley, who was attending that. And she had just kind of gotten out of a boot camp at the time. She was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe all I need to do is find maybe like 2 more people. Found, Stacy was working at Zapier as in support at the time. And she was like, yeah, I'll do it, of course. And then we found one other person here in Portland, had our first little group. And then we ran that first cohort starting back in August of last year. Went well enough. And, we found another mentor. We did a second cohort. And at that point, people started just kind of beating down the door to try and to get, applying to get into the program. So we knew we were onto something. It's been growing ever since, and it's been such a rewarding experience for me. Just to, like Stacy said, we've had 7 cohorts come through, and people they've said such good things about the experience in terms of, kind of outcomes. So, feeling more confident in interviews when they go for a tech interview, but also just, there's a real sense of community with the people at Collab Lab. And anyway, I'm really excited for you, really excited Stacy and Adrian are both amazing. They're like such great people and are going to be excellent mentors for you. So super excited for you all. Yeah, I'll stop talking and let you all kind of do your thing.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. I will go next. I am Stacy. I am one of cohort number 8's mentors. As Andrew said, I was a participant in the first cohort and have mentored
most of them.
Most of the other cohorts through the process. My career kind of was started in product management, and I was like, I want to be a developer. So I'm a boot camp grad who then went into support because I found it was really hard to find a remote job as a developer, as a junior developer. I'm a mom of 2 little babies, and needed something remote, which is another reason why I freaking love Collab Lab, is because it gives you that, like, a lot of people like that first remote experience that they need to kind of get their foot in the door. So you're going to pick up like a lot of really great remote work experience. Like you might have remote learning experience, but to have a remote work experience to play off of like in interviews and stuff is going to be amazing. So I work as a front-end engineer at Zapier now, and do Collab Lab. I do a lot of Collab Lab and I love it. So I'm so excited to be here with you all. We're going to have a good time. Passing it on to Adrian, your other mentor.
Hey y'all, I'm so excited to meet you and be working with you for the next 8 weeks. I think it's going to be transformative. So I have been leading remote teams for the last 3 years, over the last 3 years as director of engineering at 2 different companies. My primary experience is in leading Python and JavaScript teams and operation teams. So when you think DevOps and keeping critical systems up, I have the experience of both managing the developers and the operations side. I love engineering management. I started in support as well, not like Stacy because I was looking for a remote because I have children, but because I was also a career changer. I was not encouraged toward the sciences or software development, math. As a girl, I was very much socialized and pushed toward humanities and English. But I always had this interest coming from open source software. I became acquainted with the philosophy of open source about 15 years ago, and I just thought it was so cool that there were these amazing people out there who were just generously sharing their talents with the world, creating free software that was just as high quality as anything you could buy commercially. And I didn't want to just be a user. I wanted to be a creator as well. So I came out of working in restaurants and catering, hospitality, working as a line cook, cleaning toilets, doing all kinds of tough jobs, and taught myself how to code with the support of the community and free resources. Got my first job in support, and then 6 months later got promoted onto development team where I was writing Python and JavaScript. Did that for about a year before being recruited into management at another company, and I've been doing that ever since. So I'm really excited to bring a love of engineering management, a love of supporting engineers, and a love of getting to know you and what drives you and what motivates you and helping motivate you over the next 8 weeks. We are a team together, and I think we're going to do great things. So that's just a little about me. If you want to know more, I'm happy to share more. Who should I pass it off to now, Stacy?
Whoever you want. Or you all can speak up and just choose who you want to go.
I can go.
All right.
My name is Marco. I'm currently, I'm a boot camp grad, and the boot camp hired me to return as a instructor support. So I'm helping students with their coursework and helping debug and stuff like that. I was a material scientist before this, so I just kind of had an affinity for technology, and yeah, and I'm just looking for, because I've tried collaborating with people before and it kind of just falls through the cracks, so I'm looking for something more solid, and I'm just really interested in working with people who want the same as well.
Same. I know that, like, oh, I'm gonna have side projects with like another group of people, and then you're like, none of us did anything. Next. Anyway, great to meet you. Welcome. Who wants to go next?
I can go. Oh, sorry. I'm Allie. Wow. Okay. I've had a lot of jobs, but I'm also a boot camp grad. I've been a substitute teacher. I worked at McDonald's for years. grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere. Back in the 90s, I was kind of into some web development, but dial-up internet in the middle of nowhere, it was really hard to learn and just sort of, get to everything. So I did a boot camp a while back. It was supposed to have a collaborative project like this at the end of it. It was a disaster. Our mentor didn't particularly care, and then took 2 weeks of vacation in the middle of it and just sort of left us. And anyway, so I've been really looking for a project since then to get that experience, because that was one of the reasons I was really excited about the boot camp, was the collaborative, remote, working experience that I would then have to, move into a job. So I'm really excited about this, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing. So, yay.
Hey.
So I'm Shajia. I studied journalism in my undergrad, so I worked as a journalist. Did a couple of internships before I graduated, but then I switched to programming after I took a programming class, and I really, really, really enjoyed doing that. So, and since then I've been working as a front-end web developer. I haven't really worked with in a collaboration when it comes to programming. I've done that for my writing projects, but not for programming. So this is why this was really exciting to learn how to collaborate with other programmers. So thank you.
Awesome. Welcome. This is going to be so much fun. And one thing that I always like to point out is that at Collab Lab, your cohort is very much like a team out in the world. We're all going to come with different past experiences and knowledge levels in different aspects of the project that we work on. So just like a team in the real world, you'll have to kind of work together to lift each other up and fill in the gaps where necessary. And it's really fun. It's a great experience to pull from if you go into interviews. So I think you're going to learn a lot. I think it's going to be amazing. Let's jump into the project brief. Let me share my screen. Share screen number 1. Okay. This is the project brief. You're going to find it in the Collab Lab TCL 8 Smart Shopping List repo that you all have access to. And I imagine you probably read through this at some point already. So I'm not going to go through it word for word. It is here if you want to go back and read through it. But I'm going to give you a high level of everything going on in there so that we can kind of wrap our heads around it a little bit better, because like I said before, it is a lot of information. Okay, so the overview of the project is that we're going to be working together, all of us together as a team, to build one app. This one app is a smart shopping list app that Andrew has written several times in several different ways to use personally, because he needed this app in his life. So if you want to see the live version of what this project is going to be based on, you can find that link here. The next thing is that we have all of the locations for the things that you're going to need in this list here. So we've got the actual live site that's deployed on Netlify, which, as you can see here, is just a React app at this point. There's nothing there. It's ready for you to gut what is there and build your own beautiful tool. Then we have the repo, which we're in right now, which is where all the code is going to live and where you all are going to collaborate to push up the code that you write and pull down the code that your teammates write. The clone URL, if you don't have the project cloned already, which I think that most of you do or should, and if you've had trouble, we'll get that worked out today. The issues list, which is where all of the stories for this project you're going to be building live. So again, we're all going to be working to build this one app. This one app is broken down into 17 stories, and each week, one pair will take one story. So that by the end of the 8 weeks, you have this full functioning app that was built based on these stories. Next, we have our database. This project is going to use Firebase as its database, which you will see here. There is nothing yet because it's ready for you to build it. It's gonna be really fun and exciting. Okay, next is the project cadence and duration. We decided on 8 weeks because we wanted you to spend about 5 hours a week. We realized that people don't have 15, 20, 30 hours a week to do side projects, because most of us are working jobs or have family responsibilities. So this is one of our ways that we feel like we're working to be really inclusive and like knock down barriers and not be gatekeepers into tech by giving you this by building this collaborative project that we can hopefully find good time for. So 40 hours over the 8 weeks, meaning about 5 hours a week. So do keep us in the loop as you work, because we're constantly refining our program and we want to make sure we're staying on that target. So if you find you're not spending that much time, let us know. If you're finding you're spending too much time, let us know. And we can look at how we can refine the program, but also look to see if we can help coach you through some productivity hacks so that we can make sure we're working really efficiently and picking up those good programming skills as far as how to approach issues to be efficient and work hard and smart and fast. So each week, the team of 4 of you and 2 mentors, you're going to split into 2 pairs of 2 developers each, and each of you are going to take one of the issues from that list that I just showed you. The pairings will go as follows. You can get the list here, but we'll talk about it every Sunday. We'll be here's who you're going to be pairing with next week, but it's always here if you want to check it out. This program is built on pair programming. So some of you might not have had experience pair programming before, and that's totally fine. What we're going to do is when you break out into your pairs, you're going to schedule time throughout the week to pair program and work through these issues together. And pair programming is such a powerful way to learn and build collaboration skills, because it helps you really think through these concepts and what you're building and verbalize it. And for me, when I came to Collab Lab, I'd never had to say React words out loud. I'd never had to explain these concepts. And it was eye-opening how little I knew how to say. And when I got done with the program, I was I feel so much more prepared to go into an interview and talk about components and literally everything. So the idea for now is you're going to break out into these pairing sessions whenever you schedule them, whenever works best for your schedules. And you're going to just work through the issues together. There might come a time throughout the week after you've pair programmed once or twice where you need to go work asynchronously on things, whether it's research or finishing up your issue or creating PRs. And that's fine too. But you definitely want to focus most of your time and energy on the pair programming aspect, because that is where the true magic of collaboration happens. So pair programming is awesome. You're just going to do whatever feels right for you the first couple of weeks. And then we're going to go over some ways to more efficiently pair program a couple weeks down the line in one of our weekly syncs. Which leads me to our weekly syncs. Each week, we're going to get on a 1-hour Zoom call as a whole group. This is outside of your pairing sessions with your partner. Generally, these are on Sundays. And if this time that we're at right now works well for everybody, we'll just continue to hold them at this time. I will send a message in Slack to verify that that's okay with everybody and refine the time if it doesn't work. But just know Sundays, likely, we will get on a 1-hour call together and I'll see each other's faces and connect and talk about what we worked on. And what will happen in those meetings is that they will always start with a demo of the work that you did the week before. These are short, concise demos that you'll prep with your partner in advance. They should last about 10 minutes, where you walk us through what you built in production, you show us what it looks like in the actual app. And then you can walk through the code that you wrote and explain anything that you think is notable or that you learned or that the other pair might need to know, because they're going to be working with the code that you wrote as well. So every time it'll start with a demo. And then on the odd numbered weeks, we're going to have a learning module, which means we're going to go over a couple high level topics about how you can be a better collaborator, how you can work more collaboratively as a developer on a remote team, so that you can really start solidifying these things that you're learning. And those will be led either by one of your mentors or somebody else who's involved in Collab Lab. But hopefully they'll be really educational and you'll get to learn some cool things that you can apply to the project and your future as a professional programmer. And then once we get done with that learning module, we'll break out into breakout rooms like we'll do today and make sure you're all set up for your next week of work. Then on the even numbered weeks, we're going to start with the demo again, like we always do. but we're going to do a retrospective after that. So like on many professional development teams, you have to take time to reflect on what went well and what you could do to improve. We're going to do that here too. So I encourage you throughout the program to be taking note of like, oh, this thing that happened went really well, and I really liked that. That benefited the team, that benefited me, and we should keep doing that. Or this is something that I think we could do to improve as a team, or I could do to improve personally, or I noticed a teammate could do to help us all work together more collaboratively. And this is a totally safe space. The only way we can grow is through being transparent and honest and open. So just know that like we want to be kind, yes, but we also want to be honest because we care about each other, and that's how we grow. So be thinking throughout the program of things you want to bring up in your retro. We will do that every 2 weeks. After the retro, we'll do what we do every week, break out into breakout groups and make sure we're all set up for the next week of work. The weekly cadence. So as we talked about on Sundays, we're going to make sure you're set up for your next week of work. That's hard to say. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, that's when you'll want to be scheduling most of your like pairing with your partner. That's when you're going to be doing most of the coding. When you're like a professional developer, and even in boot camp and stuff, I'm sure you all know this, the coding is like the smallest part of the job. Like actually writing the code does like probably will take you the least amount of time. The research, the like collaboration, the documentation, getting your PRs up, getting reviews, going back to the table to fix it, that's where like the bulk of the work happens. So it's really like the first couple days of the week that you want to make sure you get all your code in place so that come Wednesday, Thursday, you can push up a pull request so that the other pair and your mentors can take a look at it and we can start refining it so that by, you know, Friday, we're in that feedback loop. Saturday, maybe we're still in the feedback loop. But by Sunday, you've gotten all your code and this beautiful new feature that you built pushed up to production so that we can all play around with it and use it and see it. So that's kind of how your week will go. Try and really front load it with coding because the rest of the week is going to be spent in this feedback cycle where we're refining what you've built. Okay, that's the weekly cadence. How to know what to do. How do you even know? As I showed you, we have an issues list where we're going to detail all of the stories. I will go ahead and show you one while we're here. This one randomly. Let me zoom out of the way. So you can see here we have the story, which you'll see if you didn't in boot camp, stories are generally as a user or as a component or whatever it might be, as something, I want to do this other thing, and sometimes there's a because. But this one, for example, is as a user, I want to view a list of my shopping list items in order of how soon I'm likely to need to buy each of them again. That's the story. The acceptance criteria are like listed below that, and any other details that we think might be necessary for you to know. And that'll be like, this acceptance criteria are the bare minimum, like this is what you need to build to have it approved. And you always want to stick to the bare minimum because people will, and not just in Collab Lab, but at large, like developers at large, will overshoot acceptance criteria or like stories all the time and start getting like what you'll hear referred to as scope creep. As they start like, well, if I'm going to change this, I probably need to change this and this and this and this. And it spirals into this huge issue when really all you needed to do was meet the acceptance criteria. So when we're talking about what needs to be done to complete the story, the acceptance criteria needs to be met on those issues. Just meet the acceptance criteria. That's it. Going above and beyond is really cool, but it takes a lot of time. So we'll just do the acceptance criteria. This we probably need to change. Tests have been written to validate the happy path. If you're feeling really confident and you have extra time and you want to write tests, feel empowered to do so. Tests are amazing and totally necessary and a brilliant thing to know, especially as you're going into interviews and a new job. But if you aren't familiar with testing, they can be quite a bit of a learning curve. So we're not going to require that you do that. But keep it in mind if you're feeling ambitious and you want to. In the case of the UI feature, it should be reviewed for accessibility. If you click on this link, you'll get a nice accessibility extension that you can run your work through to make sure that it's accessible, because it's very important that anybody can use our app. We want it to be inclusive and accessible. The code has been implemented and reviewed by the other pair and your mentors. And the way that will work is that you are going to write your code and create a PR. The other pair is going to review it first. So in Slack, say, hey, other pair, this is ready for your review. They're going to go in and note their feedback. And when they're comfortable with it, you're going to ping your mentors and say, hey, mentors, it's ready for review. So it's going to go through 2 approvals. And then once the mentor gives you the final review, you'll be able to merge it to master and it'll be ready to go in production. So that's what's happening here. The other pair needs to review it. The product owner, which is just one of the mentors in this case, is going to need to review it. And then you're done. When you merge it into master in GitHub, it's going to automatically deploy to Netlify so that when you go to this URL, you will see the incredible new feature that you wrote and you can poke around with it and demo it for your team on Sundays. It's going to be amazing. Okay. I am going to, coordination and communication. It is super helpful for everybody on the team and for yourself to make sure you're documenting your work. And I'm sure you've done this in boot camp and in other jobs, but as you are approaching a task, you will want to take notes somewhere about like what your plan is going to be, what resources you might need to learn from, what references you found that you found really helpful. And so the way that we're going to do this here is that we're actually going to take our notes on the issue. And you'll see this a lot like in open source and probably in whatever jobs you go into. But you can leave a comment here like, okay, our plan is to 1, take a look at this documentation, and then we're going to do this. And you can leave notes for your partner like, hey, I got as far as XYZ. Can you pick up the rest of this? Not only is this helpful for collaboration so that we are all on the same page, but when you're going into interview for a dev position, they're going to want to know like things you've built and how you like what your process was. And this is going to be really helpful for you to come back to see how you solved problems, because you'll forget for sure. Like I still go back to like old documentation that I've written like this to solve problems at my current job. Like, oh, right, how did I like solve that over here? And it's like, because you wrote the code and you've already studied it, it's kind of more helpful to look at your own notes first than to go like surfing the internet for somebody else's. So take really good notes. Good for you. It's good for your team. Everybody wins. And that's what we want. Let's see what else. Okay. So another thing that you might do is create a draft PR. So you can create, we're going to be creating pull requests. After you write all your code for the week, you'll create a beautiful pull request explaining what it does. And that's where we're all going to be leaving feedback. But before you create that final request or pull request, you can totally create a draft one where you can ask more questions. And it's great because you can point to specific lines of code, which makes it a little more explicit when you're asking for help. So if you have a draft pull request up, you can be like, hey, Adrienne, why is this component re-rendering so much? And you can literally point her to that line of code that you think is having the problem. And it'll just help your mentors and your teammates really visualize what you're talking about. Another tip there is use a screen recording tool to kind of like walk through the problems you're having. One thing that I found and still find hard is kind of like explaining what I don't know. Like sometimes you just don't know what words to use. And if you can like show us the code and like point to lines and like jump around to different files and explain the struggles you're facing, it'll be a lot easier to like get everybody on the same page about what's happening. So that's what coordination and communication will look like. Again, this is a lot of information, just like starting a new job. We're here for you. We're a team. And you're going to be a pro at this in no time. So don't worry. I'm going to pass it over to Adrienne to go over the development process so that you can kind of get an idea of like nuts and bolts of how you'll actually be doing this code collaboration. So Adrienne.
Awesome. Thank you, Stacy. Can y'all all hear me okay?
Sure thing.
Does it sound okay?
Mm-hmm.
So because the development process is it stands alone as its own little section, I just want to take a very quick moment, just underscore a couple of things that Stacy said that I found really helpful. I want to underscore her comments about giving feedback and about the acceptance criteria. We'll keep talking about this, but I just wanted to go ahead and share a little bit. I want you to know that when Stacy and Andrew and I say that we really want to receive your feedback and hear about your experience, we mean that. We really do want to hear how this is going for you. As having joined the team pretty recently, I can tell how much thought Andrew and Stacey have put into this program and how they have iterated over the programs and over the cohorts, and they've been able to do that because of the feedback. So please do that. It will help you have a better experience, and it'll also help improve the program for the future. And I want to say, especially as a new member of this team, it might be hard because you feel like, well, I don't want to say anything critical. You know, they've put so much thought into this. You know, we're all working so hard. I don't want to criticize. I would suggest maybe a mind shift with that. You don't have to have anything critical to say, but it means you can share, look, this is what this program is like for me. This is what I'm actually running into. This is how much time I'm really spending on it. That isn't criticism. That's just feedback. That's your experience. And it's super, super valuable. So talk about it in public if you can. Share what you're running into with Slack. Because we're a remote team, and you'll see this if you work on remote teams, we're not always around at the same time. So if you ping somebody on DM, they might not necessarily be able to get back to you. But if you put that out in a public channel in the open, more people can see it. There's more opportunity to help. So share that feedback there. Document where you're running into issues. And please know that this is a super safe space to really talk about your experience. So I wanted to underscore that. And then the other thing is underscoring what Stacey said about the acceptance criteria. Here's another place where I wanted to bring in a subtle mind shift or way of thinking about something. I'm used to being in rooms with high achievers. I'm used to being in rooms with people who want to go further, do more, be faster, be better. They push themselves. They're really, really hard on themselves. They want the extra credit. They want to go above and beyond. And I feel that in my bones. I am the same way. But when you think about meeting the acceptance criteria, I don't want you to think about it in terms of meeting the bare minimum. It's not the bare minimum. It's the acceptance criteria. It is what is useful and usable to your team. So the mind shift change that I'd like to suggest here, it's not that you are just doing the bare minimum, you're meeting the acceptance criteria. This program is about collaboration. And when we do enough to meet our AC while the other team is meeting their ACs, those ACs fit together to build the product. And going above and beyond might mean stepping on the toes of your other team. It might actually decrease collaboration if you take steps to go above and beyond, to go beyond the AC. And you may find yourself doing work that's planned for the future. So really, really focus on that AC, remembering that it's about enhancing collaboration. And that's what we're here to do, right? It was so exciting to hear all of you say, like, you're here because you want to collaborate. So awesome. So that's just what I wanted to underline before talking about development process. Stacey, I hope that was okay to share. All right, I'm sure it's informed by my years as an engineering manager and seeing teams and shepherding them through processes. So let's talk about the dev processes a little bit. Okay, so Stacey, I'm gonna continue to let you drive the screen share, even though I'm gonna look at my local notes. Okay, so we're gonna be doing our work on feature branches. And we have a naming convention or way to name our branches, which is documented here in this document. Feel free to refer to this. If you don't memorize it right away, totally cool. We have an example here of how to name the branch, the naming convention here. You'll each be able to work on the feature branch independently, but only one of you will submit the merge request when the work is ready. So when you are ready to start work on your feature, one of you in your pair will create a local branch following that naming convention, and then you'll push the branch to GitHub so that your pair buddy can then pull it down to their local development environment. And we've got the instructions here to do that. We're also going to be going into the breakout room soon to talk through that as well, and answer any questions you might have, again, with that focus on collaboration. So when you and your peer partner have working code that you believe is ready to be merged to master and deployed, you're going to follow the steps here that are outlined 1 through 7. You're going to create a pull request, which is always a super exciting thing to do. I love opening pull requests. Then you're going to hop over into Slack and notify the other pair team that you have a new PR for them to review. Feel free to use emojis. It's great. Then you're going to take the feedback that you get from that other pair team into your work until both you and the other team are happy with it and feel like this is ready to be merged. And then once you all as a group, as a team of 4, feel good about it, you've sought the feedback, you've incorporated the feedback, you feel good about it, then you're going to request that the mentors review the PR for approval. And then once you get that approval, you're gonna hit that big green button and merge the PR into master. Your code will automatically be built and deployed to production thanks to Netlify, and then you'll be able to check out your work on the production site. And that'll feel really, really good. So that's all I have to say about the development process now, but we'll continue to talk about it, reiterate it, here for any questions. I'll give it back to Stacy.
Totally. The whole like development process, if you haven't worked like on collaborative code, can seem a little overwhelming at first, but you'll totally get into a routine and it'll become like muscle memory for you. So you're going to do great. I know it can seem like a lot. So just to kind of recap high level what the program is going to look like is every week you're going to pair program with somebody. About midweek, you want to make sure your code's written so you have a PR. It's going to go through 2 rounds of feedback, and we'll meet on Sunday to demo the work and either do a learning module or a retro. Slack is going to be your best friend here. Be loud in Slack. There's nothing you can't say in Slack. Be transparent by posting things in the open so that we all know how things are progressing and what questions you're having. Use Slack to build, our community, to build our team so that we can trust each other and work really well as, a collaborative team. We're here for you. We are excited. It's going to be so much fun and we're ready to go. So I'm sure that I've missed something. When you have questions, please ask. We're here for you. Any questions right now? Andrew, anything to add? Adrian, anything to add?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, which is
Of course.
that this isn't school.
Yes.
Okay, so you're not being judged, you're not being graded. Like, we are just a team trying to build something together, right? So please approach it like that. Like, we really buy into something called the growth mindset, which if you haven't heard of it, is worth looking up. It's really just having a belief in yourself and others that you are capable of growing and changing. So it's not, you don't have like a set sort of these capabilities or something. You really can get better at things. And so what that implies is that like none of us were born knowing how to do any of this stuff, right? Like even though some of us have done it for a while and kind of are pretty comfortable with it, we had to start somewhere. And everyone's at different points in that journey. So just kind of keep that mindset in mind. Don't worry about being judged if you don't know how to do something, or it's the first time if you've never created a branch. No problem. You're going to learn how to create a branch, and in a few weeks you're going to be like, oh, I make branches all the time. That's what I do. So just get ready to just be kind of open and stretch yourself, and just kind of getting that mindset to learn. So
exactly that. 100. I love it. Okay. Any questions from anybody? I'm sure you're going to have questions. If you don't have them right now, that's fine. But I want to make sure I'm giving you time to ask anything that's pressing before we break out and get ready for week 1. Anybody? You got a question.
I just wanted to say something. So I was looking over the project brief file on GitHub. Some of the links under the location for things, they're broken.
Yeah, I noticed that
so
too. If you click on,
we'll
fix it. But right now, if you want to get to it, if you click on the link, you'll see that the actual link starts like here. So we'll fix that. But if you want to get there, you can just delete that for now.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, sure. I was able to get that done, but
Awesome.
I just wanted to point
Thank
that out.
you.
Thank you.
You know what, too? Like, if you ever find something like that and we're like not on a call, you can totally like create an issue about it and like tackle it yourself if you want, or one of us can do it. But
I was going to ask that. I can do that if that's not a problem. Yeah,
totally. Sure. And you're probably like,
yeah.
I don't know how familiar you all are. Like, I know some of you like work as developers, but having things like issues created is a super powerful thing to bring into like an interview or into your job search as well, because like the coding is one thing, but the ability to like document a problem is also something that is like incredibly valuable to be able to do as a developer. So you're totally empowered to, as you go through this app build, if you notice other things, other feature requests that you would have as a user, you can like create those as issues. Or if you notice like a little bug in something that you or one of the pairs created, create an issue about it. And if you have time, go back to it. If not, this repo will live on for like a very long time. And so as you're going out into the market, you can be like, here's a like public repo that I worked on. Here's an issue I created. Here's work that I've done. And it's just really great to show. So,
and if you haven't done that before, we're on the Collab Lab repo right now. It's up at the top where you see where it says code. You see issue 17. You would just click on issues, and then you would go over there where that green button says new issue, and then click that, and then just make sure you have a real clear title and write a real clear description of what you're running into, any
like
changes
this, right?
you might request, and then submit the new issue. And that'll help us track it. We will try to resolve as many as makes sense for us.
Totally love it. And like when Collab Lab's over, if you're having a good time and you want to keep going, keep going. Like these issues will be here for you. If you want to tackle them later, you of course don't have to, but this is your app. This is yours. So do with it what you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I was gonna say is like feel ownership over this. You know, like Shajia, like you notice that, and it'd be totally appropriate for you to fix the links and put a PR up and say, hey, I noticed this. I just wanted to correct it. So yeah, this is your repo. So you're the team that owns this repo.
All yours. So proud of you all already.
But I did just fix those links.
Okay, so don't go fix those links. Great. Okay, cool. Well, let's get started then by launching into week 1. So the way that this will work is that generally on our Sunday calls, what we'll do is one of us, sorry, kids, right? We'll pop into here and we'll be like, here are the next 2 issues that we're going to be covering. So of course, since it's week 1, we're going to be doing issues 1 and 2. And these are ordered in the way that makes sense for the app build. So it'll always kind of go in order. So next week, the 2 issues that we're going to work on are issue number 1. Let me get Zoom out of the way. I'm always fumbling Zoom around. Issue number 1. As a component, I want to be able to read from and write to the Firestore database, that database where we're going to be storing all of our data. And if you look in here at the acceptance criteria, you can say the following have been added as dependencies. There's 2 dependencies. You want to be able to make a change in the database and have it show up in the app. And you want to be able to make a change in the app and have it show up on the database. That's issue number 1, Firebase database heavy. Issue number 2 is as a user, I want to be able to navigate between the list view and the add an item view. And again, you can pop down here into the acceptance criteria and see that there's a dependency that needs to be added. And then there need to be 2 tabs present and persistent on the bottom of the app, one for list and the other for add an item. When the link is clicked, the browser URL needs to update to represent that current view, and whichever tab is selected should indicate somehow that it's selected. So those are the stories and the acceptance criteria. Then what we will do every week after we look at these, we'll be like, do any of these issues jump out to any of you? It is totally fair to claim whatever issue you are interested in. Like if you're interested in building, database structure, or you just want to know more about the database and that excites you, pick the Firebase one. Or, if you've worked with React Router and you're really comfortable with it and you want to keep doing that, then raise your hand and grab that one. If nobody cares, I will just assign them in order. But I do want to give you the chance to work on what you want to work on. So does anybody have any special interest in either of these before I make the assignments? So we have Firestore database for one and React router for the other.
I'm good with anything.
All right, cool. Then in that case, I will just assign them to whoever is in, I'm gonna go back to the project brief because again, that is where the pairs are. And it looks like Francesca and Marco. Francesca is not here. So I'll just pop in there and pair with you and we'll get her caught up to speed. This is recorded again so she can catch up, but I'll make sure you're all taken care of.
Sounds fantastic.
Okay, and then the other pair is, I wanna make sure I'm saying this right, so correct me. Sajia?
Shajia.
Sajia.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Sajia and Ali are the other pair. Thank you. So we'll do Marco and Francesca here on the Firebase one. Francesca. And then once those assignments are made, we're going to drag it over to the in progress column. And then when it's ready for review, it'll go here. When the reviewers have approved, it'll go here. So these are your pair partners. When the product owner needs to give approval, so the mentors, it'll go here. And when it's done, we'll drop it over here and close the issue. So that means that issue number 2 here is going to...
Uh-oh, I was just assigning.
Oh,
Sorry.
were you? Okay, no, go ahead.
I should have waited.
No, go right ahead. And then you can drag it over to the in progress column. Okay. Let me refresh to make sure I'm catching these updates. Okay, so we'll assign those in this part of the call and drag them over to the in progress column. And then what we'll do is we'll break out into breakout groups with your pair, so you and your partner, and then one mentor. And we just want to make sure you're all set up and ready to go for the week to come. So this first week, we will spend a little extra time than we usually do, making sure we're getting branches created and that both of you have them so that you can both start kind of poking around and working on your issue. But after that, we'll mostly just take a look at the issue together and kind of set out like a high level plan so that you and your partner can go and start hustling on the issues. So with that, before I send us into breakout rooms, because we won't all get back together again after that until next week, of course, or if you happen to want to have a full group session throughout the week, which is fine as well. Does anybody have any last things they want to share?
How are y'all feeling about it?
That is a good question.
Excited? Are you nervous?
I'm excited personally.
Yay!
Good.
I'm so excited
Definitely
about it.
excited.
Cool. That's great.
That's so awesome. Okay, I'm secretly trying to figure out breakout rooms over here. Again.
I'm pretty excited too. I think this is going to be great. It's just really, so I want to direct this to the participants. This is a really awesome opportunity for me. I have been managing mostly senior engineers for the last 3 years, but I am very connected with the early career experience because that's how I got my start. I was a career changer, and I was the direct recipient of mentorship and sponsorship and learning how to give talks at conferences and becoming a technical editor for a major textbook. I lived that, but it's been a long time since I got to work with folks who are learning it. And there's a special kind of magic about, that phase of your career. So this is really exciting for me. I'm super pumped to get to know y'all and to kind of be back in your shoes again. So yeah, this is gonna be great.
Same. Hard same on all of that. I love it and I'm so excited. Okay, sending us into breakout rooms. I'm so excited. I'm so proud of you all already. This is gonna be an amazing team and we're gonna have so much fun over the next 8 weeks. Let's hop into these breakout rooms and set ourselves up for success for week 1. Ready?
Ready.
And go. I'm opening all the breakout rooms and we can join them and I will see you all soon.
I think
Hi, I invited
I
you.
should be
because-
in. Yeah, I should be over with Adrian.
Oh, shoot.
Because I was
Can
gonna.
you get out of here?
Yeah.
I mean, like, do I need to, let's see.
No, I think I'll leave.
Okay, leave and then, do I need to add him? Sorry, give me 1 second to see if, shoot. Give me 1 second. I will be right back, Marco, I promise.
Okay.
Stay here. Turning the main session. Okay, let me get you back over here. Yes. Shoot, I did this wrong.
Oh,
Sorry. I'm trying to get Andrew over to you.
Hey,
Sorry, I picked the wrong Andrew. This is my mistake.
That's what I thought happened. Yeah.
How do I add somebody to this breakout room? It's like, now that I opened them, it like won't let me. Shoot. It like seriously will not let me. Okay, shit. I'm closing it. I'm giving them seconds to come back and then I'm going to send them back because it like won't let me add you.
Okay, no worries. Maybe change your name on the.
Yes,
thing,
I should do that. Hey, everybody.
okay, hey y'all.
So sorry. So sorry.
How's
for
it
the
going?
Confusion.
It's going great. We were just waiting on Andrew, but
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm confused because we're both called Andrew Hedges, and I'm
yeah,
like,
I figured there was an issue with permissions. Our group noticed that too.
okay, so here we go. Opening the rooms again.
All right, I'm gonna join a breakout room.
Hi. Okay. Just me and you. I have not heard from Francesca yet, so if she can't make it for whatever reason, I will be here to help you as your partner, and we will make sure week 1 goes off without a hitch. So
Perfect.
what we should do first. Okay, so the 2 things we need to do here are we need to make sure we can create a shared branch, and then we can go over the issue and kind of talk about how we will tackle it. Do you want to do either one of those things first? Are you familiar with creating branches at all? What has your experience been with that?
Yes, I am familiar with it. I'm not sure if you guys have a certain style of how you prefer the branches to be open. I'm not familiar with that, but yeah, I can.
Not really. So like at Collab Lab, it's very much about the collaboration experience and so much less about code quality or like best practices. It's like, if you can get the code written, if you can get the branches created, do whatever it takes, as long as like the collaboration's at the top of mind. So if you like to create your branches from the command line, you can totally do that. So if you want to like screen share with me real quick, and we'll just make sure that that gets created, and I'll even pull it down on my end so that if I'm your partner, I can pair with you.
Oh, here it is.
Where's my mouse? It seems to be missing. There it is. Okay. I've got my command line up as well. Let's see. CD.
Oh, I think it's. So there's only one branch. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and so in the project brief, it talks about the naming conventions for them, and it'll be your initials and your partner's initials, and then whatever you're going to be working on. So it'll be your initials, and then let's see what Francesca's are. Let me pull her up. I don't know her last name. Francesca. Okay, so hers are FC.
Okay.
And then the issue that we're going to be working on, and I can screen share with you and we're going over that, but we're going to be doing as a component, I want to be able to read from and write to the Firestore database. So something like connect to Firestore or set up database, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really matter, just so long as like the team can look at it and know kind of what's happening in that branch.
Okay. Does this look fine?
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll send that up. Okay, and so to send it up,
Oh.
the command, do you know the command to push?
There we go.
Okay, perfect. And so now you want to push that up with git push -u origin space capital H E-A-D to push the head up. And that should push up your new branch you created. So go ahead and push that. And beautiful. This is looking really good. We'll wait for it to finish. Okay, it looks like it should be up. So let me make sure I can pull that down on my end.
Okay.
I'm going to git pull it. And then let's see, git check out. And then it was called, what was the name of the branch again? Let's see.
MCFC setup database.
Set up database. Okie doke. All right. So now that we have those branches perfectly great, we will go over the issue. I'm going to pop back over into the issues. I'll screen share with you just so we can you can see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about things. Let's see.
I have some familiarity with Firestore.
Awesome.
But I used it in Cloud Functions. I'm sure you're going to use it on the front end, and I've never done that before.
Yeah, it'll be I think what's most important in development at all is just being familiar with documentation. So if you've been in Google's documentation, you kind of understand how to read it. Then it's if you've worked with one, you can work with any of them because it's you just got to know how to read the documentation and you'll be good to go. There is a NPM package, 2 of them, that we'll be using here that have pretty good documentation that'll be really helpful here too. But okay, so as a component, I want to be able to read from and write to the database. The acceptance criteria, as I kind of went over before, is we need to add these 2 dependencies to the project. We need to make a change in Firestore and have it show up on the app, and make a change in the app and have it show up on Firestore. So this one's a good lesson in sticking to the acceptance criteria very specifically, because when I read this, what I think is oh, well, I know what the app is supposed to do. It's supposed to be a shopping list app. So I'm going to create a form where I can send a whole item over to the database, and then I'm going to pull that whole item down into the database, and all of a sudden you're rendering the whole list and sending up whole items, and then it's you built the whole app. You know what I mean? So it's to really stick just to the acceptance criteria. It's what's the bare minimum we can build to get something to change in Firestore when we do something on the app, and vice versa. And so what I would probably suggest to just fulfill the acceptance criteria is doing something having a button in the UI, just a simple button that when you click it, it stores something click in the database. And when you go into the database and you add an item Apple, it pulls that into just the view, just as a P tag, something really simple, just to show bare minimum, it's doing the thing. The database is connected, and we're seeing results on both ends. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what do you think your approach to solving this might look like? Even if it's just I need to go research these things first or something.
Yeah, I would need to, my go-to is always Googling to see what resources are out there. I'd probably Google Firestore React, definitely the dependencies, and probably reading the documentation first. But afterwards, I would look for people who have had experience with building projects with these and seeing if they have any example code up.
Oh yeah, look for example code. I love that. Look for example code.
But Google, their docs are really good at documenting their technologies. So definitely, if not my first, it would be my last thing that I would do.
If necessary. Cool. I mean, that sounds like a really good starting plan. It seems like all of those things are things that you could do right away and then have a better idea of how exactly you'd implement this in the code, because the next thing you would do is what does this actually look like? This actually look like, I'm going to say button, something like that, so that it's later on, I'm going to comment this. Once you kind of have a better idea of what it might look like you can go in and like refine that part of your plan as well. Hopefully Francesca too, when she shows up. But you're like good to go with a base plan now, and you can kind of like go start researching things. We'll see if we can get a hold of Francesca by the end of today. And if we can't, then I will connect with you to set up like a pairing session, and we'll just pair program together
Okay.
for the first week. Anyway, so like, do you feel comfortable with this? Like in spending like the next day or so sort of researching and tinkering to see like what this might look like, and then we'd go into a pairing session?
I do, yeah. At first, before you had said anything, I was kind of already thinking a little over the top, which is funny, because I didn't know that I was, but I was like when I had read this story, because I've been looking at it quite a bit before this meeting today, I was imagining that this first issue would encompass like a sending an actual object to the database with the information. And
right. And so it's like kind of like what Adrian was saying, like if you look at the issues list, there are like actual stories for like, as a user, I want to add a new item to the shopping list, where you'll like actually get to go like say, okay, what's going to be in an item? These are the things we need to send to the database. You know, and like, I want to set up a shopping list. So like, if you're like, I'm going to add an item, well, now all of a sudden you have to go into the database and create like, what's the database structure going to look like? Are we going to have like, you know, lists and then items on the list, and how we're going to associate them? So like it spirals into like scope creep so fast and easy because we look at the app and we think like, oh, well, I need to build this list. That's what we're doing. And it's like, it gets so spirally. So yeah, we'll just keep to the bare minimum. Just make sure that the database is working as it should. And in the coming weeks, we will like make it so much more robust and amazing.
Okay, perfect.
So good. Okay. Well then,
I do have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so for this, would I work on creating a separate component for this functionality, or would you prefer I just work out of the app.js for now?
That's a good question. I think that is totally up to you. I would recommend that all components you write be functional components instead of class components.
Always.
Right? Yes, right. Exactly. Yes. But if you want to create separate components for them, that's totally fine. Just know that depending on how the app moves forward, they might get trashed and like refactored. But I like the idea of kind of keeping it separate. You know, like if you're going to have a button that sends to the database, you know, that could be like in a component. And then if you have something that's going to read from the database, like take this item in the database and read it in another component, that can be like a really good way to move too.
Okay, so it's pretty free then.
Yeah, no, this is totally like your app. Build it however you would approach this. Like, you know, because it's like Andrew's saying, it's not like boot camp or school where it's like, here's the task and here's how you do it. It's kind of like, you can solve this however you want. Like, try whatever you want. You know, refactor it in the future if necessary. Like next week, you might have to refactor it, but that's like, it's all stuff that is going to happen like in a professional engineering role. So it's like super useful to start like turning your mind's cogwheels like that. Like, oh, I'm in charge of just like finding the solution from scratch. So it is all you. Whatever you think is the way to go is the way to go.
Okay, perfect.
Good. Okay. Then what we'll do is we'll hang up here. If I don't hear by Francesca by the end of today, I'll send you a message and we'll schedule a pairing for Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, that sounds great.
Sound good? Thanks for hanging in there. I know it's like, it might seem a little shaky, like going into the first week and you're like, my partner's not even here, but know that we're a full team all together and we're going to make it happen. Okay?
All right. Perfect.
Awesome. Okay. Well, it was great to meet you and I will see you soon. Okay?
All right. I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.